is currently 11 o'clock on a work night. I am still in my work clothes and I'm tired. So rather than me sorting through journals and trying to figure out what scientific topic to talk about, we're just going to talk about the mistakes, the lies I've told you over the years. I have three of them. Corrections I need to make, or clarifications more so than anything, on some concepts that I feel like the GIC Crew, I miscommunicated and we're a little bit confused on, just based on some of the comments I'm reading. So let's get into it. Now, some of these are old. I will say this is like beginning YouTube days where I wasn't super confident. I wasn't great at teaching. I'm not saying I'm good at teaching now by any stretch of the imagination. I think I'm maybe more entertaining at this point than anything. However, I minced words, and that mincing of words, the internet is quick to chop a person's head off if they make even one foul mistake. So let's talk about my 3 mistakes that were misinterpreted because I can't verbalize well enough. Number 1, seedlings and fertilizer. So here's the lie I gave. In said video, I can't remember which one, from years back, I think this was like 4 years ago, I said to use a half potency solution to fertilize your seedlings with. And then I started saying to use a full potency fertilizer to fertilize your seedlings with. I think how to clarify this best is when I said half potency was when I was very scared someone was going to kill their plants via fertilizing by not following instructions or not being correct in their measurements before placing in the water. So I put a buffer in the statement to ensure that the poor GIC Crew didn't kill everything. I'm not saying that you guys would be dumb enough to do that. However, if I was watching an influencer, like a weightlifting influencer, and they said 1 scoop of protein powder after you go work out, even though I should be smarter than this, I would say two scoops of protein powder. Because more is better. And so I was projecting myself on you by saying to use a half solution. However, what I will say is if your fertilizer does not say for seedlings, don't go full strength because it could be too strong. However, if it's meant for seedlings, follow the instructions on the package and you'll be just fine. Once the plant is out of seedling stage, and I think there's actually a little bit of misconception as to what a seedling is, but regardless, once the plant is grown up, it needs full strength. And this is even more particularly true in the event you have being in a smaller size container in peat potting soil, coconut coir potting soil, and you're watering regularly, because a lot of nutrients is mobile, meaning when you water, it's carried out via gravity and it just kind of goes all over the place, not uptaken by the plant. Combo that with the fact that there's just not a lot of soil volume, and nutrient can get very easily depleted when you end up with a bigger plant inside of said container. So I would, if I had to lean towards you following the instructions and what route to take, I would say go full strength unless the container otherwise states so. And I would also encourage you to water with a fertilizer every time you water, unless if you're seeing salt buildup or the signs of over-fertilization. If you see either one of those two things, then just go for water. The other trick I could give you, and this is like maybe an expert tip that you don't have to follow this, but if you wanted really good results and something that I've personally noticed over the years, because I do in the greenhouse and indoors, I have a big barrel of water and I actually do adjust the pH of said barrel of water. And I do add fertilizer into said barrel of water. So what I do is I fill the barrel of water up. It's like a big 50-gallon drum. The one outdoors is a 50-gallon drum. I fill that with water. I put in 50 gallons worth of fertilizer into there. I do like a granular. And then I will pH test that. So once I pH test it, I will then adjust it using either acid or a base. That is pretty friggin' rare. Sometimes, shockingly enough, I can use the fertilizer to bring it down a little bit. And then I can use humic acid, which I've done videos on humic acid. it's not. Anyways, I don't think it's like the end all be all for fertilizer and plant and soil health. No, I don't think that, but it does actually drop the pH of water. And I have a whole bunch of it from some videos I've done in the past. So I do use it for that purpose, but otherwise you would just use like an acid base bring down, and you would bring it into the realm that is ideal for plants and that may be a little bit below neutral. And it tends to make a pretty big difference in nutrient uptake, plant health, all that sort of stuff. So it's definitely something you could give a shot if you want to be extra nerdy. So just to clarify, when I said half strength, it's because I didn't want you to kill anything. And if you're nervous, just do half strength. But if you're using a seedling formula, follow the instructions, full strength all the way. Right, King? Yes, it's a dog. Next up is this video. This actually isn't an old video. This was last year. And I tend to piss off a lot of people again this year with the very similar concepts. But planting depth of tomatoes. Yes, I know. It's so cute. If I knew the internet was going to get this angry over the planting depth of a tomato, I would have done it sooner. To be totally honest, because I love when people get upset. I think it's funny because I'm like, dude, it's gardening. Literally gardening. It's just plants, bro. Anyways, planting depth of tomatoes. I did a video last year. Oh my good Lord. I love you. He's like, it is bedtime, Vish. Do you want to do the news report on gardening? What do you have to say to the GIC Crew? Hi, my name is Kane. And I'm bad. I busted my nail and I had to go to surgeries. You did. You had to do that while I was at a trade show that week. Yeah, I was at a trade show for agriculture and you decided to go bust your nail. And then I had to leave the trade show to get your toe fixed. It's terrible, Kane. I'm not holding. Okay, come on. What the shit? All right, planting depth of tomatoes. A bit of background here. The video I did, I discussed how the concept of planting tomatoes deep is completely based on some research that was done in the southern U.S. It was very specific to Florida and Texas, I believe. And what they determined was that their soil would heat up. And so when they dug the plant deeper into the soil profile, it was able to place the root ball, the main root ball, in a cooler position. They have a Goldilocks zone, just like anything else out there. And in these southern states, just planting flush with the soil surface resulted in too hot of a root ball. So they dug it down. Now logic would dictate if you took a soil temp thermometer, which is what I did, and you stuck it in a Canadian soil in spring, the temperature is cooler than even the temperature of the surface of the Florida, Texas area. Not that those are nice to each other, but like that southern US area. However, if you were to compare the lower portion of the potting hole in the lower US with the soil temps of the upper profile, root ball flush with ground area of a Canadian soil, and your temperatures start to look a little bit closer, a little bit more similar. So what I suggested people do, and it actually made a big difference for me, myself, and I don't know, do what you want. But what I suggested was planting the root ball level with the ground over plummeting it into the ground, because Canadian soil, the deeper you go, the cooler she gets and the less likely it is to heat up. And this is even more true if you have a clay soil or a heavy soil versus a sandy soil. So if you have a clay soil, a loam soil, I would even be more inclined to encourage you to pop it closer up to the soil surface. As always, be your own garden scientist, try different levels, figure out what works best for you. Where I think I missed the mark and where there is a little bit of nuance that wasn't explained 100%, it is the fact that I was referencing cool soil and the fact that some soils are cooler. And I don't, just judging from the comment section, either people just got really angry for no reason, or the comment section led me to believe that I didn't clarify this enough. But essentially, what I was referencing was testing your soil temps to determine if you have a cooler soil or a hotter soil. Obviously dig down. If you have a cooler soil, stay above the soil surface. The other thing that I was talking about in there, and this is where I shouldn't have minced words, I was talking about taking the seedling bumping it up into a nursery pot and how deep you should actually plant it in said nursery pot versus taking the nursery pot and then planting it in the soil. So what I did say is that when you bump up from the tiny seed cell into the nursery pot, I encourage everyone, regardless of where they are on planet Earth, to plant the pod as close to the soil, like make the pod, the plug, surface level with the nursery pot. The reason being that the root, if you were to plant, say, put it all to the bottom and then pile the soil up along it, now your root space that your plant has to grow is like this because your root ball's bumped up right against the bottom of your nursery pot. Really, all the roots can do is go outwards. You will get some adventitious roots on the stem itself, but these roots takes energy to make these roots. So there is your upper biomass that has to be redirected into making these new roots on the sides of the plant, those warts. And once those warts turn into real roots or new roots, they act more as like a stability type root. They actually anchor the plant in place more than really help with nutrient capture, particularly in the beginning. The nuance to that is over time, technically, root hairs and all that sort of stuff can form because while it's not true root, it will eventually mimic pretty closely to root. So there is water capture, there is nutrient uptake over time, but we're talking a while and it's not overnight. And again, we're redirecting energy into them. So why would you want to do that? It's just silly. So in my opinion, that's my opinion. Don't take my head off. My opinion. You can have a different one. My opinion is that. So root ball level, if you put the plug at the very bottom, now you have all this stem space to make roots or force the plant to try to make roots and stress out about making roots over putting biomass up here. And then your true root system has like this little space here to kind of hang out in and grow through. So you want a better root system because that's what does the digging for the water and the nutrients and everything. Plant it flush inside the nursery pot. Then when you go to take the plant out into your garden, get a soil temp thermometer, test your soil temps, watch that video to get the soil temps that are needed because I can't remember them off the top of my head. Figure out where your soil temps sit. If you have a cool soil, lower the profile. Please do not bury your tomato plant. You are disadvantaging yourself hugely if you have a hot soil. If you are in a raised bed and the plant is butted up right against a piece of aluminum. If it's in a pot and the pot is black and it's going to be really, really warm by the middle of summer, just use a little common sense. Not a majority of you have common sense. I think it's just crazy people in the comment section that don't. Common sense would dictate different mediums heat up a little bit faster. Potting soil is going to heat up a lot faster than a clay soil would. Use a little bit of your brain there and then adjust the height in which you plant them at accordingly. If you put them in a container with potting soil, it doesn't really matter what depth you plant them at because the potting soil, I mean, you kind of sacrificed that ability to control temp and keep it low by just doing it in a container anyway. So that is number 2 mistake I've made, other than being born a redhead. That you could maybe argue is also a number 2. The next one is planter height. So I've done various different videos on planter heights, and I've changed my opinion on planter heights. Said that when they're on top of interlocking brick or cement or asphalt or anything like that, you need a little bit more depth because obviously you don't have as much soil volume capacity because the plants themselves can't, push through asphalt or, cement or interlocking brick, which, I mean, depending on the type of plant you have, maybe if it's a perennial, it probably will, to be honest, like a tree or a shrub or anything like that long term, and it will eventually break through those. Roots can break through rock. They're quite impressive, but obviously a tomato plant's not going through cement. So I do say to make a little bit of a taller bed. I still stand by that. I still think that you need to plan for what types of plants you intend to put into that soil and then make your height accordingly. I also say not only 3 feet, but I also say, 4 feet by 8 feet long, somewhere minimum in and around there if it's on top of cement, because you also are not only relying on the height for, the plant to be able to anchor into, but you also are relying on the soil volume. So you need enough soil volume that you're not stressing yourself out with watering and keeping up with nutrients, because the soil capacity is going to determine how much you have to water and all that sort of stuff. So that one I still stand by. The one that I'm not too sure about and I'm not confident I gave right information on is the idea of putting a bed on top of unrototilled, old, presently known to be lawn. So as you guys know, I made my whole front yard into a garden. And when I did that, I did do like the no dig method, but the Ashley version of it, where I essentially took cardboard. I laid the cardboard down on top of the grass to kill the weeds off. And then I put soil, like actual garden soil, loam. Oh, they don't do straight manure. That's an Ashley thing. You don't have to do what I'm telling you to. I personally heavily believe in the value of just regular mineral soil and the beauty of Mother Nature and how she supplied us with mineral soil and how that works best for most plants on planet Earth. And it also doesn't result in leaching and runoff and all that sort of fun stuff that you can find from using excessive levels of like organics, particularly like manures and that sort of thing. So rant over anything that was around like that 2 foot mark, like just your classic Vigo bed, was fine. I actually didn't have a lot of issues with water holding capacity, growth, nothing like that. Those ones tend to work out pretty good for me. What I did have troubles with was anything less than that. So I have those Princess Auto beds, which are about a foot. And then I have some brick ones where I just made them out of brick, and they're, the height of a brick, half a foot at tops. And those ones were designed the same way as the big ones were. Those ones, because I didn't rototill the soil underneath and I did nothing to incorporate them, I ran into a few issues. Not issues in the sense that I'm going to redo them. I say that, but I might actually. I don't know. It's a lot of work. I'm still on the fence about it. But a few issues in the sense that, number one, those beds that are shorter are very difficult to keep water inside of because the soil on top is not mixed with the soil on the bottom, and they act as 2 separate soil systems. Because of that, it is very difficult for me to keep water in that system. So I find as though I have to water very frequently, or I have to have like some form of drip irrigation in place. So that kind of sucks. The other thing that I'm finding is that it does, and I knew this would happen, but you think I listen to my own knowledge? No, absolutely not. I'm running into a perched water table. It's a little bit more severe than I predicted it to be, despite what I know. And the fact that I've told you guys repeatedly not to make this mistake. I made this mistake out of complete laziness. Given I did build these when my mom was in palliative care, so that is my excuse. I was lazy at the time. But perched water table essentially means you have a soil. It could be soilless. It could be coconut coir, it could be peat, it could be compost, it could be manure, it could be soil. Doesn't matter. You have one soil medium that is a different texture than the below soil medium, or different just compaction levels even. And so when you have 2 different levels or 2 different types, the water will trickle down the first system, and then it'll hit the second system, and then it just kind of pools, and it'll pool, and then eventually it'll go down. Depending on the bottom layer and what it's made out of and how stubborn, it may take a lot for that to break through. And I think I'm getting a lot of resistance. There has been times when I've watered and then I've walked around the bed and there's water pooling just outside of like the brick. And so I'm thinking to myself, the water's not absorbing at the level it should. And then you combine that with the fact that it's not a sealed system. So it's not like the water's pooling and then being held there. It's on a lawn, so it's running down the lawn onto the road or the sidewalk. So because it's not contained, it doesn't actually ever penetrate because it just doesn't. Gravity takes over. and it doesn't sit there long enough to actually saturate and move through. This is layer 1, this is layer 2. Like, to remove this line, you would obviously rototill it and mix them up, and that would result in something more homogeneous, and that would allow for the water to penetrate properly. So it's a twofold factor. I have a combination of it's difficult to water and keep water in, and the reason for that comes down to the fact that I can't get the water to penetrate the lower layer fast enough to be able to make a difference for the plant, combined with the fact that it doesn't matter how much I water, it's just never going to happen because it's not pooling. It's not staying in situ and then moving down eventually. It is literally just running off. That was silly on my part. I don't know what else to say about that one, but that one was a lie. It was a mistake. It was a big mistake. One I am very regretting. I only have I have 5 beds like that still. And I'm seriously debating getting rid of them and rotating them up. It's crazy though, because the one on the side of the house that I've shown you guys before, I do a lot of beans over on that. That one, it was a clay soil with crushed rock initially is what it was. It was a decorative crushed rock. I removed some of the rock, but I didn't do much with that clay kind of soil layer. I did put soil on top, but I put a board in there, and that board hasn't rotted out yet, thank goodness. But that board is below the cement, and so it's like a sidewalk, and the board's shoved in. And so when the water when it gets watered, it does pool, and then it moves down because there's no gravity outwards because it's literally blocked by something relatively porous. It's not it's obviously waterproof, but it's enough that the cement on the one side combined with the board on the other, the water sits there and it forces it down. So that one I don't have issues getting watered. It's just this one, and the front is not playing nice because it's on a slope. There is no fix to that one. There's I have zero solution. There's no solution other than digging it all up, which sucks. But anyways, my mistakes. I'm sorry. GIC Crew, I love you. Please forgive me. This is my penance. Be my priest and say you are forgiven for your sins. Other than being a redhead. I mean, that one maybe not so much, but being a dum-dum, yes. Any hoosers. I don't know what's going to show up. You just watch whatever that is. And then that one's what Google says you should watch. What is this? My most recent video? There you go.